I'm Gail Simmons.
I'm Shana Stephenson.
I'm Caleb Silver.
And I'm Jacqui Gifford, and you're listening to Sweet Success.
You've just checked in to Sweet Success. Join me, Katie Cline, for exclusive conversations with hotel executives, hospitality leaders, and industry innovators. Together, we'll uncover the strategies and techniques these masters of hospitality relentlessly refine. Whether you're already in the industry or just starting out, tune in every week to unlock the secret to your sweet success. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Sweet Success. I'm your host, Katie Cline, and today's episode is a very special one. It's a first of its kind. Last week, I had the pleasure of attending Travel + Leisure's World's Best Summit here in New York City. Over the course of 2 jam-packed days, some of the travel industry's most influential voices came together for a dynamic agenda of keynotes, panel discussions, and spirited debates, all centered around the trends that are shaping the future of global travel. One panelist, Brandon Berkson, described it as the Super Bowl of travel. To me, the sign of a great event is one that leaves you truly inspired. I know that word gets thrown around a lot, but what I really mean is this. You leave with new ideas, new connections, you catch up with old friends and colleagues, and you leave feeling a renewed sense of purpose. This event over-delivered on that. And no, I don't just say that because it offered a much-needed break from my current sweet chaos of life with a newborn. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely love spending time with my littlest one, but let's be honest, the nonstop cycle of feedings and diaper changes can feel a bit, Groundhog Day. So to step into a room full of creative energy, future-focused ideas, and passionate people, it was a breath of fresh air. Anyway, I digress, but all of that to say, it was truly, truly great. I had the chance to meet some really remarkable leaders, many of whom you'll hear from in this episode, as well as forthcoming episodes. I started to plan a trip for next summer with some of my closest friends after listening to a keynote with Tracy Ellis Ross, where she talked about how important it is for her to travel with her friends. I started to think more seriously about finally planning my dream trip to Antarctica after listening some of the incredible stories on the expedition panel. If you were there too, you know just how magical it was. But if you couldn't make it, think of this episode as the SparksNotes version. Your highlight reel packed with top takeaways, a few personal reflections, and most excitingly of all, exclusive insights from 4 of this year's standout speakers. First up, we'll hear from Jacqui Gifford, editor-in-chief of Travel + Leisure. Then Gail Simmons, culinary expert, author, producer, and judge on Bravo's Emmy award-winning Top Chef. Next, Shana Stephenson, chief brand officer of the New York Liberty. And finally, Caleb Silver, editor-in-chief of Investopedia. In addition to hearing their perspectives today, you'll get a deeper dive into each of their journeys in upcoming episodes. So be sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast platform so you don't miss those. But to kick things off, let's start with the woman who helped bring the entire summit to life, Jacqui Gifford. She's not only the editor-in-chief of Travel + Leisure, but a wonderful connector, an incredible moderator, and a true champion of this industry. Excitingly, she confirmed that the World's Best Summit will be back again next year. So if you missed this year's event, don't make the same mistake in 2026. Now, over to Jacqui. Jacqui, congratulations on what was such an incredible event. This was the 2nd annual World's Best Summit, and at the end, very excitingly, you announced that there will indeed be a 3rd one happening next year. What was the original idea behind creating this event?
We felt like the travel industry needed to hear more from our editors and their point of view. We often get asked what the editors are thinking, how to pitch, and there was that part of it, just getting them more front and center. But also I felt like I've been to enough conferences where the conversation is quite dry and not really that heartfelt. And there was a chance for us to really solidify we have a strong B2B, for lack of a better word, presence, whether talking to travel advisors, executives. So I felt like we could play that up in a really impactful way by gathering people together. It's not a consumer event in that it's not like a reader would buy a ticket. I mean, it certainly can, but it's not. It's more about the industry coming together, and it just happened organically. We have people coming in for the world's best awards anyway, and it was like, well, people are flying in from all over the world. Let's look into the fact that they're already here and think about doing something. We happen to have a great auditorium in our office, and it just fell into place. And last year was great, and then this year it just kicked it up a notch. So I think we've really cemented our status as a thought leader and innovator as a brand.
And for anyone who is listening or watching, when you hear auditorium in our office, you might think of one thing, but let me tell you, that is a world-class event space. It is absolutely stunning, fabulous. And in addition to that, you brought obviously major players from the travel industry, but you also brought some star power too. You brought Tracee Ellis Ross, you brought Selma Blair, two incredible, incredible women who delivered really powerful keynote conversations. What were your favorite takeaways from each of those sessions, or maybe even a private moment behind the scenes?
Yeah, well, both of them were our cover stars. So we had relationships with them. I met them in person at both shoots, and I connected with both of them in a very meaningful way. When someone gives you that kind of time for a shoot, it's really wonderful. And I asked, both of them to come because, and this goes back to the storytelling part of it. It's like, you can convey things, and both of them did social media for us. And, you can convey certain things on a page, on a, site, on a video, but the power of hearing them tell their personal stories in real life, I think is there's nothing greater. So Selma has multiple sclerosis. She has, had to go through some pretty intensive treatment and has come out and now been an advocate for those with disabilities. And I think her message of sharing to the hotel industry what we could do better, even if it's putting somebody in the room with the best view, something simple as that, really made a big impact. And the thing that she said to me, and said to the audience, we're all going to be in that place of vulnerability one day. We're all going to be there one day. And whether it's, we're all living longer and we'll all face some sort of challenge. And that really was powerful. I mean, amongst the many other things she said. And Tracee she's incredible. She's so funny. She's so real. She has been a passionate advocate for solo travel. She travels a lot by herself, and she talked about safety, traveling as a Black woman, traveling as an overpacker, traveling because she just feels like she needs to heal and get out and enjoy her time. And that me time is really important to her. And she also loves to travel with her friends. She talked about that, the power of the walk and talk, of like going through a museum or on a walk with someone or on a walk with her family. So I think just hearing that these celebrities, and they're big celebrities, are just like us in the sense that they love to travel and they have their passions and quirks and things that they enjoy. And I think the audience just loved it because they love to hear those vulnerable stories.
After hosting for more than 2 years, I finally made the decision to switch to Lodgify. And honestly, I should have done it sooner. If you haven't heard of them yet, Lodgify is a property management software built for short-term rentals and boutique hotels. They make it easy to manage your calendar, update cross-channel listings, automate guest messages, connect with OTAs, and even build a direct booking website. What I love most is that it's intuitive, it's organized, and most importantly, it's setting me up for what's next, whether that be adding more short-term rentals to my portfolio or maybe opening a boutique hotel one day. Lodgify is the kind of platform that grows with you. Visit lodgify.com and use code SWEET20, that's sweet like hotel suite, to get 20% off their annual plans today. Check out the link in the show notes for more. Everything you were just saying about Tracee with the walk and talk, I actually came home and was like, I need to plan a trip with my friends. Like, I need to refocus on that. She did such a great job of conveying that. And I think even in just those two examples that you gave, you're showing how the programming really spanned the full spectrum of travel. We had expeditions, loyalty, solo travel, as you just mentioned, all inclusives, sports tourism, and then of course with Selma, accessible travel. If you had to pick one moment from the entire summit or an insight or something that stood out the most, you had to pick one, what would it be and why?
I think the debate that was sparked in the loyalty panel was quite fascinating. It was a panel that was as much about the joys and as the frustrations of that side of the business, and that was really interesting to me. This is something that really everyone's like, wow, the system is kind of broken. So
the audience really felt that. And I think more than the content that was being discussed, it was really refreshing to see panelists disagreeing respectfully, very respectfully
very
so.
respectfully.
But a lot of times, to your earlier point, you attend these events and it's a lot of like, I'm a publicist at heart, but we can really see through as an audience when it's just talking point after talking point. You want those real opinions, the vulnerability, and you want the debate. And that's what the loyalty session did so well.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Looking ahead, Travel and Leisure is also involved in another incredible event, one hosted by your sister brand, the Food and Wine Classic. That's going to be taking place in Charleston, South Carolina this November, I understand. Between that event and the World's Best Summit, it's really incredible to see how you guys are bringing these iconic media brands to life in a way that consumers, or like you said, the industry can really experience. And, we heard it in one of the sessions at World's Best, talked a lot about branding. How do you think about these brand extensions?
I think it's just a way to, in all honesty, engage with people in a really intimate, they're festivals, but they're not huge, right? So it's a premium ticketed event. Same with our summit. So it's just about dialogue. It's about conversation. It's about getting your brand out there and taking like what the content creation side of it and like really making it into something that people can experience as a community. And that's been really special. And Charleston was a massive success. We're into year 2 now. And I'm really proud of what we did there. We hosted small crabbing tours with a woman, Tia Clark, who runs a company called Casual Crabbing with Tia. And then she took them out on the water, caught the crabs. Then we went back to 2 great local restaurants, 82 Queen and Costa, to do chef demos. And that was really special. And people told me, off the bat, I saw the ad in the magazine. I wanted to do it. I booked it. So I think people enjoy that validation of like, I can meet the talent, the people on the pages of the magazine, and you're verifying that it's going to be good. And our experiences were great.
To call something the world's best is obviously a big statement. What to you actually makes something the best in the world? And can you share one of your travel experiences? I know this is going to be a big one to pick from, but maybe a hotel, destination, restaurant, meal that lived up to that title.
So I just got back from Botswana, where we stayed at Kidra Safari Lodge, which is in the Delta and in the Murrumbidgee Game Reserve. It was renovated by the Tillman family, purchased and renovated by the Tillman family. And their dedication to art and conservation has come to life in a very unique way at that property. They have a world-class collection of African art, historic pieces, but pieces commissioned for the hotel that is unmatched. And it's all, some are in the rooms, but some of it, the lodge is open air. So some of it's just out there. And then you have the game and the wildlife, and it's unbelievable. Lions, 2 prides of lions that we saw, wild dogs, leopards, elephants. And the food was incredible. And Botswana is it's wet, the Delta. It's the 2nd largest inland delta in the world, but it's hard to actually grow things there in the dry season. So they've got to really be laser focused on how to keep this place running, mostly solar powered. They partner with a local village on a small composting program. We flew to the Silidillo Hills, where you can see early cave paintings. It's a UNESCO heritage site. And it was, I wish more people could see it because it's that special. It's very remote. Yeah. It's not inexpensive, but I just feel fortunate that I was one of the few who did.
See what I mean? Few people have a broader view or a deeper insight into the travel industry than Jacqui. Next up, let's hear from Gail Simmons, culinary expert, author, producer, and judge on Bravo's Emmy Award-winning series, Top Chef. Gail was part of a panel titled Partnerships and Connection, The Power of Brand, where she and the other panelists discussed different ways to cultivate loyalty and emotional connection with travelers. Gail, when Jacqui introduced you on stage, she said something that really stuck with me, that you are someone who started working for a brand, then you became a brand, and now you've created a brand. Do you also see it that way? And what are the key differences between those three?
I did not see it articulated as beautifully and powerfully as Jacqui said it on stage at World's Best Summit. But I understand it. And sometimes it's helpful to see how people view you from the outside. And that was eye-opening for me too, to position me in that way. And like anyone, sometimes I have trouble seeing clearly how far I've come or what I've accomplished. And I will say, you asked what the differences are, but I want to start with what the similarities are, which are that in all three instances, I'm passionate about the mission. Mm-hmm. When I worked for Food and Wine magazine, which was my professional home for 15 years, I loved, and I still love that brand, but from a distance now, I really felt like we were creating something I truly believed in that was intentional. And that was mostly due to the team of people that I worked with to do it, because they were best in class. And not only were they people I admired, but I just felt like we were doing work that felt so satisfying to me. We were all in it together on the same page. We had a unified vision for that brand. And I loved working for that brand to expand it and to deliver on the promise that we were making to our readers and our customers in that way. And I think the same thing has remained true even when I sort of left and became a brand of me, where I believe in taking on projects with people who have that same intention of me as me. Mm-hmm. And how do I make sure that if I am the face of my brand, I'm the name on the door, and I said this somewhat in the panel, that I need to really still believe in and be passionate about what I'm doing, or else it is so transparent and inauthentic. Mm-hmm. I don't have a poker face, so I really want to just make sure that what I'm doing I can believe in and feels true to me. And that might feel cliche, but it requires something that many years ago someone said to me, and I didn't understand until I started my own business, which was, you're going to say no more than you say yes. And I didn't understand what that meant when I was just leaving Food and Wine and going out on my own, because in my head, I'm like, why would I say no to anything? I'm a yes person. I want to dive in. I want to do everything. And they explained to me that, but you also need to set standards and also boundaries about who you are, because everything dilutes your brand, and then you don't know what you stand for. So, it's important to think through your decision making, because that will give you the ability to create your brand properly and with strength and with conviction. And I think then in creating a brand, creating our production company, and now taking my position from being on camera to behind the scenes myself and developing and producing projects, I still need to think of it in the same way. And it's still about working with people and projects that spark in me, passion and belief and intention. But also in terms of what differentiates, I think it's now just feeling like I'm finally in a place where I have a voice of conviction myself. So it came from finding that voice, working for another brand that could show me their voice, to finding my own voice and what makes my point of view specific and my point of view purposeful, to then using my voice. So looking for it, finding it, and then actually being able to use my voice and have confidence in myself to make those decisions that then affect other people's work as well, and creating my own team that can do that.
It's interesting too what you're saying about no and yes, because I feel like you started your career saying yes to everything. And then once you figured out, I like this, I don't like this is me, this isn't me, that's when the no can enter the conversation. But you started with the yeses in order to be able to give intentional no's, I would
Well,
say.
exactly. And I think that that's a very natural path for anyone in their career as they go from sort of like the lower rungs up a little bit with a little more experience, and you get older and you learn from your experience, and you sort of become more senior in your role. Those first few years, of course, you just need to take it all in and do everything and like say yes when someone tells you to go on a screen test for a crazy reality show, because you never know where it'll lead, even though you think you don't know how you're going to explain it to your mother that you're going on a crazy reality show. Just try it, right? Because you don't have much to lose, right? And it can only, as I said before, it can only garner more experience that you can then use in your arsenal. But as you get older, you learn lessons and you understand a little more who you are, and there's also more to lose. So I need to be more intentional. I have a family now. I have employees who rely on me for their livelihoods. And so, that also becomes the drive to make the decisions you make. And as I said on the panel as well, I can't be everything to everyone. So I need to have sort of one starting point and remember that everything I do, it can be across many categories and mediums, but it all has to go back for me to that mission. And it still remains, just as it did 25 years ago, it still remains first and foremost about food and how food can tell stories and enrich our lives.
Something else you said on the panel that I really liked was that when it comes to personal branding, you live in the body of your brand. Just like you said, it's your name on the door, right? Is there a difference between Gail as a mom, as a friend, as a person, and then Gail as maybe the public might perceive you?
I want to say no, but in my house, we have a saying that there's TV Gail and there's home Gail. And they are different because I think I'm actually quite private in my home life. I don't share everything, and that's okay because it's mine to keep for myself. And I think maybe people will be surprised because on the outside it looks a certain way because that is the building of the brand, right? That at home, I'm not eating 6-course meals every night. I'm not cooking every single night. I just can't possibly do it all. I have help. I have an amazing partner. I have, as does any brand that needs to grow. You can't grow as the CEO of any company and still be washing the dishes every night, right? And still be working in the mailroom every night. And that's been a hard lesson because it's a lesson in control and delegation. And, but it has to evolve in terms of who I am too, because I need those boundaries personally to have my home life and my kids. I love that I live in a place, I live in Brooklyn, and I love that I live in a real community where I'm walking my kids to school and I'm in my pajamas half the time and nobody cares and everybody knows me. And I can then also go a mile and a half into Manhattan to be on television within an hour. And so yes, there is a difference, and for me, it is about drawing boundaries. I'm not saying I'm a different person in either place. I don't think I am in terms of my core values, but I certainly separate the two because I want to be present in both places.
Yeah, it's interesting you said about living in Brooklyn and the community and everything too, because I was thinking of you yesterday as I picked up my daughter from school. She's 3, and she decided to just have a full-on tantrum meltdown for the entire 30-minute walk, and it was 89 degrees out, so I'm sweating and she's screaming the whole time. And I just thought, I wonder if Gail ever has this moment, and if you have a thought of
Katie. All the time. And you know what? Here's the thing that we all have to remember. Everybody does. I can say sort of a crass expression, but like everybody is human, right?
Mm-hmm.
No one, look, power and influence and money, you can be a you can be a massive star, and that allows you a lot more support to not have to be the person with the breakdown. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Everyone has emotion. If you are a parent and you are parenting, that is the job, to parent.
Mm-hmm.
And no one has, even the Prince and Princess of Wales, which I look at and I'm always like, does their children, what happens if you have what happens if they gave birth to my child who loves to have public emotional outbursts? Like they do. Everybody does. And I struggle with it myself because I feel like sometimes I have to be perfect out in public because I want to be professional and I want people to think of my brand in a certain way and I want to keep it that way. But also, like, I don't know, I also want us all to get over this pedestal that we put each other on because no one sees what's really going on behind the scenes. And now everybody has a platform, right? Everybody has a social media presence and everyone can craft that social media presence to be whatever they want it to be. And that's okay. They are entitled to that. I do the same. And I could say I'm guilty of doing the same, but I'm not going to have any guilt over it because that is my brand. But I am also a real human being.
Yeah.
Right. And my son is running around right here in front of me. And, he wants to come on and say hello, but he knows
he is welcome.
Some space right now. He might. He just went downstairs for some reason. But anyway, all the time. And, you have to just go with the punches. And like life is messy and silly and ridiculous. And also, it doesn't mean I feel very lucky to be in a position that I'm in to get to do a lot of different things. But at the end of the day, I think my kids, they don't care about Top Chef.
No.
They've never watched an episode. My 11-year-old markedly doesn't want to see it. And I get it because she just wants mom. And that's like a different, she goes to events with me. She comes on set all the time. She's very proud of me.
Yeah.
But I get that she doesn't want to see me in that way. She just wants me to be there at night to tuck her in and to help her with her homework and to make her lunch.
Yeah, to be that human that you were talking about. And you mentioned with your community in Brooklyn, and I think that's a lot of what we heard in the summit is that people are looking for connection. So how do you feel like food and the culinary scene plays a role in hospitality and travel as a whole?
They're intrinsically linked, right? There's no way to separate those things. I think we travel to expand our view of the world. And a very powerful way to do that is through eating, right? And food and hospitality.
My favorite way.
Yes, it's the only way. I don't understand it otherwise. But to that point, very literally, like I make sense of the world through food, right? Mm-hmm. Food tells the story of a people, of a place, of a soil, of a moment in time, of history. Why some people eat with chopsticks and others eat with forks and knives. All of that, to me, informs and makes sense of our very, very complicated world. And so I think hospitality as a layer of those things is really important because it allows a back and forth between guests or between, experiencer and the person who is showing the experience. But I think they affect each other, right? And I think if if a restaurant, hotel, or any point of tourism wants to welcome people so that they understand, so that the outsider, the guest understands their point of view more by giving them an experience that welcomes them in, that makes them feel part of the community, that shows that they are listening and making that guest feel seen, but also can show them something new and expand, maybe even change their mind about a place, an ingredient, a dish, then you've achieved something really special. And that becomes like an osmosis effect. Not only does the hospitalitarian feel like they have educated you and given you a really joyful experience, but you are going to take that experience on with you to whatever you do next. You're going to talk about it. You're going to share it. You're going to internalize it and bring it home with you in who knows how many ways.
The next time you're traveling or celebrating an important occasion, book a Flytographer photo shoot. They make it easy to capture memories by connecting you with hand-picked professional photographers in over 350 destinations around the world. I should know. Capturing memories with family and friends is super important to me, and I've booked Flytographers from Maine to Paris to London. A Flytographer shoot is an essential part of every trip I plan. They also have an incredible affiliate and travel advisor program. Add a photo shoot to your customer's next itinerary and earn 10% commission. Visit flytographer.com/sweet success for $25 off your first shoot or to sign up as an affiliate or travel advisor. That's FLYTOGRAPHER.com/sweet, like hotel suite success.
You have been to some really spectacular places, I'm sure personally, but also professionally, of course. And is there one destination, hotel, or maybe even a food memory that to you really felt like a world's best moment?
I don't know. So many things that I've done that I've had to, and I'm not saying they were fancy or outrageous, just moments of really being sort of awed by a place or a thing or an experience. I can think of so many. I was in Mexico City very recently for the first time in April. I'd never been before, and I had high expectations because in hearing about Mexico City from so many people, I have friends that live there, and I was
Big
leading
food city.
actually a big food city that I couldn't believe was like this gaping hole in my knowledge of the world, and there were so many moments on my trip that just like, it's very humbling in a good way, right? Like, I don't want that to sound trite, but where you just realize how little you know about the world. And that's what I love in general about hospitality and in general about travel, right? Is because, and about eating, because every day it's different. And every day there's something new to taste and try and see and explore. One, really sort of moment that made me feel very special and that felt like real hospitality was that we spent a half a day on these canals, on these sort of river boats that take you through the canals of Xochimilco, which is about an hour out of maybe the center, 45 minutes out of the center of Mexico. These series of beautiful canals that were built by the Aztecs, for transportation and of agriculture and food and livestock, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And now you go on these beautiful boats, and there's boats that come up to you and cook for you, and there's mariachi bands that are floating on boats that come and will play for you, and you sit on the boat, and there's a table in the center, and you can have lunch, and there's all these different things to taste and try, and you can stop along the way, and it's this beautiful verdant experience, right? Very green, and you're out in the sunshine. And the boats themselves are all decorated very vibrantly. And I was with a small group of about 18 people, 17 people, and we pull up to go to our boat, and I'm walking towards the boat, and I see that the boat has been decorated specially for me, all in fresh flowers. Hundreds of fresh flowers were used to decorate the entire facade of the boat and spell out my name in fresh flowers.
Wow.
And it was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And also a little bit sort of embarrassing to see my name that way. I mean, it's like the most I'll ever get to my name in lights,
Hey, you don't know that.
It was but the thought that they had, the hours of work and craftsmanship that had gone into creating this facade in fresh flowers, it was just so unbelievable and such a beautiful, way for them to welcome me as their guest that day. I was just floored by it.
Yeah.
I had this stupid smile on my face. my cheeks were red. I was like blushing and embarrassed, but also so excited by it. And I don't know, it was just like this incredible thing to be on this boat and to think that they had spent time before I got there thinking about me and how to make it special.
Yeah.
And that felt really, it was part of the tradition of what they do. This is just the rituals and traditions of what they do for these boats, and part of the tourism experience. But it really, I can tell you now, the effect it had on me is that now every single time I talk about Mexico City to everyone, whether it's on my social media or at an event or just talking to friends or anyone who says they're going, I'm going to tell them this is a must. They have to do this. They don't have to get their name in 2 hours, but you have to spend an afternoon going through the canals of Xochimilco because it was so breathtaking and so beautiful and such a warm, thoughtful experience. And the food was so great and the micheladas were cold and the music was amazing and it was so beautiful. And so now I am becoming like I'm proselytizing this tourism experience, and hopefully that will, word of mouth enforces and sustains that community to be able to keep doing it.
So good. And is it just me or is anyone else feeling a bit hungry? Now, let's hear from Shana Stephenson, Chief Brand Officer of the New York Liberty. She was part of a panel titled The Golden Ticket, which talked about one of the fastest growing sectors in the travel industry, sports and events tourism. Shana, we have all witnessed the economic power of people traveling for sports and events. From Taylor and Beyonce to the Olympics and the World Cup, sports and live events have become a really major driver of travel demand. What are you seeing when it comes to fans traveling into New York for the Liberty?
I love this question because this is my 8th season with the team. And this season, we've had the most sellouts than, we've had year over year. Wow. And I think part of that has to do with tourism. New York is obviously a major travel destination, regardless of what you're visiting New York for, especially when you look at the summer. But it seems like the New York Liberty Games are becoming more of a destination for tourists who are visiting the city. On a personal anecdote, a friend of mine from college who lives in North Carolina recently was visiting New York with her daughter and her daughter's dance team. So I think it was about a group of 11. And they purchased tickets to our game because they not only wanted to experience the Liberty game, but as dancers, they're familiar with our entertainment. They love Ellie and they wanted to see how all of that comes together. Yeah. And so for them, that was, what a major priority for them. I also think Ellie has become a huge fan favorite across the globe. And, she's gone viral on social media and people are just curious and want to see and experience her live for themselves. Mm-hmm. Or maybe they'll get lucky and get a selfie with Ellie or buy some Ellie merch at our team store. And I love that there are multiple reasons that people are coming to Liberty Games because whether it's Ellie that's driving you there, and then once you get there, you experience, what that all-encompassing, electrifying energy is in the building, and then also get to see how wonderful our players are. It makes you fall in love with the Liberty as a whole. If you came for Ellie, but you stay for the basketball, I'm not mad about that. I love it. If you're a huge Stewie fan, and then you come and you fall in love with, Natasha Cloud and how fierce she is of a player, now you're going to our team store and getting her jersey as well, even though you came here as a Stewie fan. So I think that we really do have the full package. And that's something that fans from New York or outside of New York or other countries are really curious about experiencing when they come to Brooklyn to a Liberty game.
Especially once you see that love affair start. I imagine you then see fans traveling to follow the team as well. So not just into New York, but into other destinations where they're playing or for big events like the WNBA finals. What do you think they're looking for in those travel and hospitality experiences?
It's interesting. I think, WNBA fans or women's sports fans, I don't think are your average fans. We compete, but we also love each other and, are supportive of each other. And so, I mentioned that I recently was at WNBA All-Star and there were so many Liberty fans there, just like decked out in Liberty gear, all ages, genders. It really was amazing to see. But also there were so many fans from other teams also well represented at All-Star. And then they're commingling. Or my favorite is when I see someone in, a Sabrina jersey, but they might be wearing a baseball cap of another team. And, they're fans of the players, they're fans of teams, they're fans of multiple players in the league. And that's what women's basketball is all about. It's about sisterhood and celebrating that. And so while we might be competitive on the court, when you think about it, everyone is also really invested in the growth and upliftment of these players and upliftment of this league. And that's what really brings everyone together and unites them across the board. And so when they're traveling to other arenas, you're not going to see their fans be disrespectful towards visiting fans. I remember attending a Yankees Red Sox game in Boston. I'm a Yankees fan. Yankees Red Sox game in Boston. And those fans at Fenway were so mean to the Yankees fans. It was appalling. And you don't get that at WNBA games, right? And so that is a moment that really sticks out to me as a fan who was traveling to another city to watch one of my teams. And that's something that, I don't think like WNBA fans or women's sports fans engage in that type of, behavior.
I had never thought of it that way. Growing up a Yankees fan, I know exactly what you mean between Red Sox and Yankees. I lived in the UK for 6 years. So if you've seen soccer or football matches there, I mean, they'll have the sections where the visiting fans can go so that they're protected. That's really actually very cool and very special. And actually probably makes fans more apt to travel for the team because they know it's going to be a welcoming, fun, competitive environment, but not that kind of nastiness that can underpin what we were just talking about. And something else I know that you guys discussed on the panel was how modern day travelers, particularly athletes, which I'm sure a lot of fans are as well, they're looking for travel providers to help them maintain their health and fitness routines while on the road. They're not looking to say, oh, I'll get back to that when I'm home. They want to be that same person when they're away. Is that something you're seeing in the team's ecosphere as well?
I can't speak to that in terms of our fans. I can speak personally about that. I'm pretty active and I'm someone who works out anytime I travel. Like I will pack my gym shoes and my workout gear and I will make sure that I maintain that lifestyle and I work out, especially because if I'm traveling, it also means I'm probably going to be drinking a lot. And I want to make sure that I'm not feeling
balance,
guilty.
people.
Yeah, I'm not feeling guilty about, just indulging a little bit more than I might usually do at home. So I just make sure that I prioritize waking up every morning and hitting the gym before I, engage in whatever it is that I'm there to do.
Will you pick your flight or your hotel based on amenities that can help you support that?
100%. So I'm a huge Peloton person.
Same.
But I've actually I don't ride the bike as much anymore. I'm obsessed with the treadmill now. And so I definitely will look at the pictures of the gym before I book a hotel. One, if they have Peloton, equipment, amazing. But if they don't, I would just want to make sure that they have a gym that has good equipment, or it's spacious enough for me to do weights and, do the treadmill if I want. So I definitely will book a hotel based on that.
Something else you said during the summit was in relation to women's sports paraphernalia or merch. And you mentioned it as well with the Liberty too. And you said, I had never heard this phrase before, but I thought that is so accurate, that the old model was to pink it and shrink it, which is so true. I think of all the gaudy, like rhinestone, lace embellished shirts where you're just like, no, I just want the same one as the guys, but just something that fits me or in a nicer fabric or something. So can you explain a bit about maybe that old school version and then what the New York Liberty is doing today to really counteract that?
Yeah, so there was that pink it and shrink it model where it was literally just like, let's just produce what we produce for the men, but make it pink and smaller. And, that didn't work because, one, we're fans of our team. So I mentioned I'm a Yankees fan. If I'm a Yankees fan, I want to wear blue and white because that's the colors of my team. I don't want to wear pink. That is not the Yankees color. So,
but Shana, you're a girl. Don't you only wear pink?
So our colors are seafoam, black and white. Don't assume that our fans want to wear pink because they're women. So I think that strategy is long gone, which is great. And so what we've done is we've continued to just like lean into what our actual brand colors are. And I think we have the flyest, dopest colorway in all of sports with our own black and white. And it's just fresh. But also when we think about the silhouettes of the merchandise that we're producing, do we have crop tops for those who want to wear something a little cropped? Do we have shirts that are, in men's sizes and cut for men? Do we have taller, or longer cut shirts or options for people who might have longer torsos? So really thinking through what those silhouettes are that we're producing to, again, make sure that we're servicing everybody, because we just can't assume that everyone wants to wear the same thing. And, we're really doing our best to explore different vendors who can give us what we want. We work with local artists as well to help us produce different merch and offer different merch, especially when we look at our theme nights. What does that look like, and how can we insert some of the cultures that we are celebrating on our theme nights through our merch and collaborating on that. So that's something that is definitely a priority for us. And as much merch as we offer, and I'm proud of the merch that we offer, we're never at a point where it's like, okay, we have enough. We're always thinking about how else we can continue to like grow our offering and serve our fans better.
And finally, I imagine that you travel a lot for work with the team and in your personal life. Is there one destination, hotel, travel memory that to you really felt like a world's best moment?
Oh, this is a great question. So I'll actually give two responses, one that was professional and one that was personal. So on a personal note, I traveled to Grenada and I stayed at Silver Sands, which if you're not familiar with Silver Sands, it's a really beautiful resort. And I believe they have the longest pool in the Caribbean. I think like that's their like claim to fame. But so modern, and the hospitality of it was wonderful. My best friend and I often travel for our birthdays, and we took a trip there for our birthday one year, and they really did everything they could to like continue to elevate our experience because they knew that we were celebrating our birthdays. And so that's a resort that I've recommended to several people, and I continue to recommend, and I will absolutely go back and visit soon, I hope. So I would say Silver Sands and Grenada. And then on a professional level, I was invited to speak at a conference in Cabo, and they flew me out first class plus a guest. I don't remember the name of the resort we stayed, but it was just a top tier experience through and through, from, the hotel or from the airport and them flying me out plus a guest and, first class, and then getting there. And the resort that we stayed at was also a first class resort. And the conference was a first class experience as well. So those two experiences really have stood out for me.
And finally, let's hear from Caleb Silver, editor-in-chief of Investopedia. Caleb opened the summit with a big picture overview, connecting the dots between spending habits and what it means for travel. Caleb, you kicked off the summit with an incredible overview of consumer spending across the industry. You talked about where people are traveling, how they're paying for it, and what this all means for the broader economy. Can you give us a quick overview of what you're seeing?
Yeah, I'm seeing better news, greener shoots, as they say, than what we saw in the beginning of the year because of all the tariff uncertainty. Now, there's still a lot of tariff uncertainty, but we have seen consumer sentiment improve, tick up in the last couple of months. We've seen spending hang in there. We're really good at spending in this country. And we've seen the high end continue to do well. And that is an unfortunate state of our economy. It's a K-shaped economy, but the high end is what pushes luxury travel. The high end is what pushes travel and discretionary spending in general. And it's back in a lot of ways. And you can see that through the forecast from the major airlines that fly internationally, especially. You're not hearing it as much from the domestic carriers. You're seeing a lot more staycation or car vacation than those flying, but you are still seeing some heavy bookings in places where you think people wouldn't be going right now because the value of the dollar is low compared to other currencies, and also it's just expensive to hit the road. But that's not stopping, I would say, the top 10%. They are back at it, and they're loving it, and they're showing us on their Instagrams and their Facebook pages how much they're loving it. So you can feel it, especially in the high end, as I say, places throughout Europe where people love to go, the Portugals, the Spains, Italys of the world, and even France, and even in the Scandinavian countries. We've seen a lot of travel interest there. When we look at the data where people are searching across our publications, there's a lot of that going on right now too. So you can feel that, but also in the experience, people are willing, especially the wealthy, but people in general have really come around to the notion that that's what the money's for creating lifetime experiences that we will never forget and share as a family, share as a couple, share as a group of friends. People want the experience, are willing to pay for it. And I think the secret sauce of the travel industry going forward is going to be this and that, right? It's the trip to Europe plus taking in a soccer match. It's the what can I do on my trip to see the World Cup when it comes around again, plus that. So it's combining those things to enrich the experience. It's a private sit down with a great chef in a villa, plus this, plus that, because they want the pictures, they want the memories that mean more to them than the things themselves. And I think that's super important for the travel industry to tune into, and I think they already have in a lot of cases. When you think about some of the great resorts that have been opening up around the world, but people will spend the money on that, especially those that have it. And guess what? There's a lot more people that have it just because there's more millionaires out there, and they want something they can't forget, and nobody else has.
You also mentioned that we're on this cusp of this largest generational transfer of wealth from boomers to millennials. But you pointed out a few factors that I hadn't really been thinking about when we think about that transfer. First, people are living longer, so their expenses are needing to last longer as well, right? They're being stretched further. You're also now seeing boomers start to spend some of that wealth on experiences for themselves, so not passing it all down. And a stat that you guys referenced in your conversation was from the US Census Bureau. The number of people 85 and older will nearly double by 2035. What does all of that combined mean for our industry?
Yeah, we're getting older, we're living longer, and it costs more to live to live longer. So, the products that the financial services industry came out with in the last 20, 30, 40 years, like annuities, are just not lasting long enough. People are outliving that money. Now, those that have invested and those that have owned assets and seen them appreciate over time are going to be fine. But for a lot of people, they're outliving that. So they're either working longer or taking a part-time job in so-called retirement, delaying retirement in many cases, or downsizing quite a bit so that they can afford their lifestyle. At the same time, you do have this higher end that's like, I accumulated a lot of assets, and just giving it away is not tax efficient necessarily. And plus, those kids don't deserve it. Or I want to enjoy myself. So you're seeing a lot of older, wealthier people hit the road. And it's not the tour bus crowd necessarily. It's the experienced crowd, as I just described. So it is, a couple, imagine several couples in their 70s saying, let's go rent that villa, outside of Montalcino and actually pick the grapes and stomp them. And let's do this together. And let's do friend group things because A, we don't know how long we're going to be here. B, we got this money. That's what it's for. And let's create the moment and the experience together in that photograph we're all going to have and pin. So there's that folks need to pay attention to. And again, it's also the combination of things. It's not enough to put, for people to jump on a cruise, although there's plenty of people that just love to go on a cruise and be taken places and do the tour that way. And that industry, is a good example of one that has rebounded nicely, but they want multiple things in that trip so that they can hit a few stops, have that memorable moment here, see that game there potentially, maybe go to the British Open. They want to add things. It's this end of that, and people have the money and are willing to pay for it.
You also said that there were more millionaires created last year than at any other point in history. It's a mind-blowing stat. Why do you think that is? And it sounds like that's going to be good news for the travel industry.
Yeah, and that's just more older people who have been invested for a very long time in basically a secular bull market minus a couple of dips over the last 20 years. We've had an incredible run as investors. I said the average is around 10% a year. The last few years has been closer to like 12 to 13% a year. But for the mega wealthy, who are, have the hedge fund or the private wealth manager that puts them into the special thing that makes it more tax efficient, but also has the higher upside, they're doing fabulously well, right? So you have regular 401k millionaires that just did what I said. They took advantage of time and they were consistent about it. And when you have a bull market like the one we've had for quite a while now, that's what happens to your money. It grows upon itself. And we've had some unbelievable stocks that have driven wealth like you wouldn't believe. NVIDIA just being one of them, but NVIDIA, Meta, Alphabet, Palantir, like this new generation of stocks that have delivered outsized returns of 2, 3, 4,000% over the past decade. That's made a lot of people a lot of money.
Keeping up with online reviews across platforms is tough, but FeedCheck makes it easier by bringing all reviews from all channels into one place. In addition to tracking your own feedback, you can even monitor competitors to see how you compare. They provide deep insights into customer sentiment, trending topics, common issues, and patterns that might otherwise be overlooked. Plus, real-time alerts mean you can respond quickly before things escalate, and AI-powered suggestions help you craft better responses. So, if you want to stay ahead of your reputation, book a demo with FeedCheck at feedcheck.co/sweetsuccess or through the link in the podcast notes. The phrase American Dream, you had said, was the most searched for phrase on Investopedia in 2023. Do you think the American dream has changed? Why do you think people are searching for that?
Yeah. I don't think they were searching for it like they lost it and they were wondering what it means anymore. I think that they had heard it enough times that they're like, yes, where's Waldo? No, I think it's a phrase they'd heard enough of and basically been fed by the financial services industry and the media, again, guilty as charged, about what life should be like when they hit their golden years. Or when as they get older, they should be able to afford a home. They should be able to take their family on vacation. They should be able to afford some pets, marry off a kid, bury somebody. And I think that notion of this is something that I'm entitled to if I just do the right thing. I went to college, right? I got a job. I've been hitting it hard for the last 10, 20, 30 years, but I just don't think I can ever have that thing. And that's because home affordability is at an all-time low. The value of home prices has gone, higher and higher every single year. And the ability to afford one of those homes has just become harder and harder. And if you are not invested or you don't own assets like a home, you're just out of it. And I think people felt like that, especially younger people felt like that was getting further and further away. That notion of that dream was gone. But reimagining what that dream could be becomes very interesting from a financial planning and wealth management perspective. We actually put a number on how much that dream would cost in today's dollars. And I'm not talking about the needs, being able to feed yourself and your family and go to the doctor and pay the rent. I'm talking about the wants. And again, that's a retirement income. Own 5 or 6 new cars over your lifetime. Have a few pets that cost a lot of money, by the way. Marry someone, send your kids to college, right? Things that you would like to be able to do if you work hard. You feel entitled to it. That's what this country was supposed to be all about. I think a lot of that became a foreign notion to folks. And that number was $4.4 million last year. It's going to go up this year because things keep costing money. Well, you see that number, for a lot of people, they go, I'll never have $4.4 million. Actually, you might. If you work the median, for 40 years at the median income, you'll have $3.3 million by the time you're 65. But there's still a gap there. How do you close the gap? By investing. But back to what I was saying about this rethinking of the dream. What if home ownership wasn't part of that anymore, or as important as it was? We were all taught, and we should be entitled to buy our own home. And when you own your own home, you've done it, right? You get your fence, you get your dog, maybe you throw a pool in the back. Well, if you didn't do that, that just clears up $1 million or more for the dream that you want to live. Now, your dream, Katie, and my dream are different. And anybody listening, their dream is different. Their dream might cost $7 million. It might cost $2 million. It might cost $500,000. Whatever it is that you want to be, the you want to be, has got to have a number on it. And you could work your way back from that. But if you didn't have the home part of it, what else could you do? You could, theoretically, pick up the family, move somewhere for a year, have a totally different experience, take a month-long vacation. Who does that except the Europeans, right? You could use that money in a much more creative way and create your own dream. So I think it was that dream that you sold us, that's not for me. And that number's crazy. I have a different dream, and I don't need all the things that you think that I need or that you've told me that I need. I need to create a rich experience for my family, for myself, that is meaningful to me, right? We got to get back to what means something to us. And I think, sadly, the pandemic kind of woke people up to that in a lot of ways. And also just the fact that everything costs more money is making people realize, well, okay, but maybe not that. Maybe it's this for me. And I think that's really important and super important for our industry, but also important for people to hear. Like, you don't have to do it the way everybody's told you to do it. Just do it your way, but do it the right way.
Yeah. And that flexibility of being able to move abroad or pick up and go for 4 weeks on vacation. Ooh, scary, I know, to us Americans, as you said. I think that's that spirit of, if not now, when, or that kind of YOLO mentality that you and Jacqui were speaking about at the summit. How are you seeing that play out in consumer behavior?
Well, you see it in a couple of ways. Sometimes you see the ultra promiscuous side of that, which is people taking really risky bets on investments like meme stocks or some crypto tokens that are literally jokes. And that's younger people, and I get it. Not just younger people, but mostly younger people. But you also see it in the way people are choosing to live their lives. And that could be a month in Costa Rica, or I'm out of here. I don't need to get locked into the rat race of a job, especially if I have to come back into the office 4 days a week now, or 3 days a week, or whatever it is. Maybe there's a different way for me to do it. Maybe I'm a gig worker now, or maybe I'm an influencer and I'm going to create my own audience. I don't need to go work for a major network anymore. I can go create my own fan base and then sell to them and monetize myself that way. So you see it in the way people are being creative about their careers, about where and how they're living, about how they're raising their families, and also in the way people treat money. And now we've talked a little bit about crypto and Bitcoin before. There's 50 million people that actually own cryptocurrency out there. And some people have been buying it for years and created incredible wealth, right? Where they're not a part of the financial system that you and I might have grown up with, right? Their money is in crypto. And when they need legal tender, maybe they'll cash in a little bit of Bitcoin and they'll use the cash and go pay the rent or whatever, buy the house. I know plenty of people like that. Well, that industry has evolved into our financial ecosystem in a way where if you are a heavy duty crypto investor and that's where your assets are, you don't trust banks or you never built a 401k or any of those things, but you got a lot of money there. Well, now you can borrow against it and get real legal tender, real dollars out of it to go transact in this world, right?
Wow.
Or you can buy a home now with Bitcoin or put money down for a mortgage with Bitcoin. You can get credit cards today where your rewards are not cash back or airline miles, which are, may or may not be worth what they used to be. You can get it in Bitcoin. Now, again, you got to believe, and you got to believe that Bitcoin is going to be here for the next 10 years and that it'll continue to grow in value. But there's other means of exchange, right? The way people are thinking about money has fundamentally changed. Investing is investing, but the way people think about how we transact, what our medium of exchange is, that's very different right now. And that mentality is going to be the one that this is the new way forward for a lot of people. There's generations of kids that will only grow up knowing this. Imagine that. Like you and I'm older than you. We grew up, in an era where credit cards. First it was charge plates, then it was credit cards, right? Then it was Venmo, right? PayPal, right? I'm just peer-to-peering you money now, right? And that's fine. Hey, we went out to dinner last night. I used to peel off $20 bills to my friends. 17 cents. But today it's like beep, 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 beep. So that's like natural to us. Imagine what that's going to be like in a digital currency world which we're kind of in right now.
Yeah. Is there one destination, hotel, or travel memory that to you really felt like a world's best moment?
I'm gonna go with an awesome little resort outside of the town of Jose Ignacio in Uruguay, where my wife is from, where I got married and fell in love, called Casa Suaja, just a little bit beyond the town of Jose Ignacio, which is beyond Punta del Este. And I don't want to spoil the secret, but here it is. It's a lovely little resort. It's light touch. The rooms are amazing with enormous windows that open up and you can see the Atlantic and the breeze. And they have a great pool and areas to walk around, but it's the vibe in sort of like the breakfast center there where you just walk in the morning, you just feel like you've found your spot, right? There's delicious food, great delicacies from all over the world, but they just make you feel quite at home there. You cross the street, you are really literally on one of the best beaches in the world, and it's chill. And right down the road, there's great kiteboarding in a lagoon, and I'm a kiteboarder. So that just place feels right to me. It's got the right tempo, the right vibes, the right tewa, so to speak. Great food, great wine, great food, and just a light touch by the staff. But if you wanted the massage and you wanted the full treatment, it's all right there for you. I just feel at home there, and I was there recently. That's why it's fresh in my mind. But I've had some great trips there. I'm from New Mexico, and there's some beautiful resorts in northern New Mexico that I also love. But I'm going to go with Casa Suaja, just outside of Jose Ignacio.
That was just a tiny glimpse into the incredible dialogue that took place at this year's summit. I hope it sparked something in each of you the way it did for me. Maybe it's planning a dream trip, or rethinking your brand, or simply seeing the world with renewed curiosity. We all know that meaningful conversations have the power to shift perspectives, just like travel does. And that concludes another episode of Sweet Success. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please subscribe, rate, and review the show. We all know how important those 5-star reviews are. I also want to say a massive thank you to each and every one of you for tuning in. It means the absolute world to me. And I'd love to hear from you. If you have ideas for future guests, new topics to cover, or even just want to say hi, don't be shy. Message me through our website, sweetsuccesspodcast.com, or on social media @sweetsuccesspodcast. That's sweet like hotel suite. Once again, I'm your host, Katie Cline, and I'm super excited to see you all next week.